Yeah, good afternoon, students. This is Dr. Angela, and I am the person who's teaching you lifespan development, right? In this paper, we have been covering, block one, block two, block three, especially about growth and development, right? We had the interaction, theoretical approaches to development, prenatal, infancy, and childhood. Then we came to the block three, that is all about adolescence. We covered everything about puberty, right? And then adolescence, and then issues and challenges in adolescence in the last class. What are the various issues an adolescent faces? And then we moved on to early childhood. What are the things that we learned in the early childhood? Characteristics of the early childhood, developmental tasks, physical and social changes, sex role adjustment, marital adjustment, adjustment to parenthood, work and career, occasional adjustment, personal and social hazards. Okay. Then we went on to looking at the summary and then model question papers and checking everything. Okay. So today we are going to cover Unit 11. And what is Unit 11 about? Unit 11 is middle adulthood, and Unit 12 is the last unit, which is about the old age. Okay, so what are the contents of the what are you going to learn today? We are going to learn about the characteristics of middle age, the developmental tasks, adjustment to physical, psychological, social, and vocational changes, physical changes that happen, psychological changes, right, vocational changes, and then changing family roles, adjustment to approaching retirement, etc. Okay, so the objectives of this unit will be explain the characteristics of middle adulthood, list out developmental tasks of early adulthood, and describe the physical, psychological, social, vocational adjustment that occurs during the middle adulthood. Explain the role change experience of middle-aged individual at family level, and discuss the importance of planning for retirement during middle adulthood. Okay, so when does middle adulthood begin? Roughly around 40 years, and then it ends around one person is around 60. By the late 40s and early 50s, people build on their earlier strength and then their commitment to leaving a legacy, right? They guide the younger generation, and they bridge the gap between the younger generation and the older generation. The children finish their education, they move out of the house, the parents have lesser responsibility towards family, more involvement in the community, leisure and pursuits and gratifying times of one's life. So during middle age, friendship has become more meaningful and more time is spent with friends. Okay. So middle age is also a period where individual's career reached at its peak, financial stability is experienced, revaluation of the early adulthood goals and meaning of their life is not uncommon for middle-aged people as they realize the limited time they now have. So some experience dissatisfaction with their life and their achievement, which leads to change in job, in line of work, change in personal life, such as maybe divorced, okay, increase in number of transition, family and job contribute greatly to emotional and social development of the individual. Now let us look at some of the characteristics of middle age. What are the characteristics of middle age? So middle adulthood is characterized, by a dreaded period, right? What is it? It's considered by many as dreaded period for individual as this period where one will not admit that they have reached. Unfavorable stereotype about middle age, belief in the decline of physical and mental capacity, and the emphasis on youth are among the various reasons why people dread this period because they feel the energy level has gone down, right? They are no more as energetic as they were before. Yeah? All these things, that affect them. So they dread this period. Next, then the second characteristics about the transitional period. So middle age is again a period of transition where the individual leaves behind the physical and behavioral characteristics of adulthood and enter into a new one that will prevail. So sooner or later, the individual needs to adjust to these changes and realizes that behavior patterns of their younger self needs to be revised. So role transition of individuals also occurs during this period. So individuals may not must adjust to changes that is impending retirement, right? So now they are taking break, retirement from their work and physical conditions abroad. Okay, so changes often result in minor crisis. So Kimmel identified these as developmental crises, which are almost universal because everybody goes through. So when first the parenthood crisis occurs when children did not meet parental expectation, Then this happened, the parents often ask them where they have gone wrong, blame themselves, their method of rearing children. They question, whether they have done the right thing, whether they have failed the children. Second crisis arises in dealing with aging parents. And when they have to look after their aging parents, okay, which includes coping with the problem of the aging parents, the guilt of not being able to let them live in their house. And the third crisis arises trying to deal with death, especially of a spouse, which may impact the individual personal and social adjustment. Okay. The third characteristic is the time of stress. Middle age is also a period where individual experiences stress as a result of change in role, behavior pattern, especially accompanied by physical changes. Barbara identified four major categories of stress in the middle adulthood. They are somatic stress due to physical evidence of aging, cultural stress stemming from higher value placed on youth, vigor, and success. Another two include economic stress, which results from financial burden, and psychological stress that's stemming from separation, boredom, sense of loss of youth and impending death. The fourth characteristics of the middle age is the dangerous age. Middle age is a dangerous age as it is a time when individual experience physical decline due to overwork, okay, over worry or careless living. It is a period where mental illness rises rapidly for both men and women. Awkward age. Middle age is a period between younger rebel generation and a senior citizen generation, both of which continuously under the spotlight. Middle-aged individuals try to remain inconspicuous as possible, as this can be seen in the way they dress, their choice of materials, and the patterns of behavior. Okay. Another important characteristic is it's a time of achievement. Middle age is a period where people become more and more successful, right? Or they stand still and accomplish nothing more. It is a period where reach high position at work and have financial success. An individual at this age have worked throughout their early adulthood generally reach their peak during the middle age. Middle age is a period not only of success but also a period of authority and prestige, and individuals enjoy the benefit of the hard earned success. Another characteristic is it's a time for evaluation. As we mentioned in the earlier, middle age is a period where individuals reach the peak and their achievement, which makes them period in which they will evaluate their achievements. The result of the evaluation gives them direction and come to terms with the fantasies and illusions which they nurtured while growing up. And then it is also another important characteristic is evaluated by the double standard, using one standard for men and one standard for women. Middle age is evaluated. Two of the most common aspect of this kind of evaluation is physical change and the way they age. When men get gray hair, wrinkle, and gain weight around the waist, they are regarded as distinct, but such change for women is considered as unattractiveness. Another double standard is the way two sex ages. One day should stay young and active, while on the other hand, they should grow old gracefully. It is also another important characteristic, a time called emptiness syndrome, where during this period the children leave their home because they are married and they have maybe have to move out of the country, or they go back and they start living their own lives. Okay, see, all along this, parents are focusing on the children to ensure that they are settled in marriage, they are settled in career and all. And now it is coming, it's time that they leave the house and they set up their own life. Okay, so that time these individuals who have been taking care of the children experience a syndrome called the empty nest, where they feel that the children are all moved out and they are all alone in the house. Okay. And sometimes it gets difficult for them because earlier they have somebody to check on, somebody to, they are motivated to get up and cook for children and all. Now everybody is moved on, so they stay all by themselves. And that is what it means. Empty nest is an empty home because the children are all moved out. And the last characteristic is the boredom. Okay, it's a time of boredom. During the late 30s, 40s, many men and women experience boredom. Men and women with a job are bored with the work routine, where those who choose homemaking are wondering what they will do as the children leave the nest. At no age, boredom is conducive to happiness or even contentment. Consequently, middle age is often unhappy period for some individual. Okay, so let's look at the developmental tasks. What are they? So middle age brings a burden of responsibility to everyone's life. During this period, individual is expected to succeed in his or her career and contribute to community life. The individual at this age functions as the bridge between both the older and the younger generation, and are responsible for the teenagers and also the aging parents. Now, have a guess developmental task according to him. Tasks relating to physical changes. These include accepting the various physical changes that occur during the middle age period. Next, the task relating to change interests. Middle-aged individuals develop an interest and adult-oriented activities which prevail during early adulthood. Middle age is also a period where an individual achieves civic and social responsibility. Tasks relating to occasional adjustment. The developmental task of middle age also includes reaching and maintaining satisfactory performance in one's occupational career. And number four is task relating to family life. This category includes relating oneself to the spouse as a person, adjusting to aging parents, and assisting teenage children to become responsible and happy adults. So, middle age is a period where one evaluates their success in meeting their goals they set up in early adulthood. As a result, some individuals make drastic revisions or changes in the family and occupational components of life structure. Levinson developmental task. According to Levinson, okay, what does he has to talk about? Four developmental tasks. One is the young old. The middle-aged individual must find ways of being young and old. The individual needs to give up certain youthful qualities, retaining and transforming others, and find positive meaning in being older. Next is destruction creation. The middle-aged individual focuses on ways he or she can act. She acted destructively with greater awareness of their mortality. Past hurtful acts towards a spouse, intimate partner, children, parents, friends, and even rivals are now replaced by strong desire to become more creative. Individuals attempt to make products of value to the self and others and participating in activities that advance human welfare. Masculine femininity. Middle age is the period where the individuals must come to terms with masculine and feminine parts of the self, creating a better balance. This means that for women becoming more autonomous, dominant, and assertive, or for men becoming more empathetic and caring towards the other. Next is the engagement versus separateness. During middle age, the individual needs to create a better balance between engagement with the external world and the separateness. Women who are devoted to child rearing without joining the workforce or those who are unfulfilling jobs typically move in another direction and they become more involved in the work world and wider community. Men, on the other hand, pull back, right, from ambition and achievement and become more in touch with themselves. Like developmental tasks of another period, all developmental tasks of middle age are not mastered at the same time and not all in the same way because individuals are different. It varies from individuals to individuals. Some mastered at the beginning of the middle age, some individual mastered at the later period, and the age in which individual got married, have children, and number of children influences the age at which they master the developmental tasks such as the civic and social responsibilities. Mastering the developmental task of middle age, prepares the individual. Okay, prepares the individual for successful adjustment to old age. This indicates the mastery of this task is important for success and happiness, not only in the middle age but also in the later years of their lives. Okay, so let's move towards now adjustment. The adjustment to physical, psychological, social, and vocational changes. So middle adulthood is accompanied by all these kind of changes which we just read now. So let us take one by one. So what are the physical changes that a middle age adulthood experience? Okay. One of the most important changes are the physical changes, which are very obvious, right? Like changes in appearance. The way they start appearing, wrinkles start appearing, which causes, no, which is caused by the change of the structure of the skin and its connecting tissues, as well as by accumulating effects damage from the exposure to sunlight. If they are having a habit of smoking cigarettes, okay, and then you can also see gray hair, which also results as a normal cessation of pigment production of hair follicles, and some male pattern of baldness, a genetic trait which often begins to appear during the middle age. So during middle age, metabolism also slows down, and the result is a weight gain, producing the middle age bulge. Okay. Then we see also the change in the bones and the joints. With the increase in age, bones and joint also change, and these changes may be preventable to some extent or sometimes caused by genetic predisposition or diseases. Like skeletal maturity is a point in which bone mass is greatest and skeleton is peak development. This occurs around the age of 18 for women and 20 in men, and the bone mass stays about the same until women reach menopause and men reach later life. A few years after menopause, rapid loss of bone mass occurs in women. Okay. And loss of bone mass may result in weaker and more brittle bones, making them easier to break and may result to heal. During middle age also, many people complain of aching joints, deterioration of cartilages, protecting the joints between begins in the 20s. This thinning, cracked and frayed cartilage can cause the bones underneath and results in disease such as arthritis. Then we see the reproductive changes middle age brings, right? The changes in the reproductive system with both men and women. Women undergo major biological changes and they also undergo climatic where women pass from reproductive to non-reproductive years. Okay, climatic in women occurs gradually over 10-year period. As estrogen production drops, women enter menopause. Men do not experience such drastic biological change, although they have experienced the climacteric, right? Their reproductive capacity merely declines rather than ends. These changes that occur during middle age have important psychological implications in both men and women, right? And which may think of midlives are key times to define, right? Some way of redefining themselves. Then you also see vision and hearing, which is most noticeable, right? As they keep growing old, they have a problem. Okay, they are not able to see, right? They'll have problem with the vision. They may have cataract. They may go for cataract operation in both men and women because the vision becomes blurry. The ability to focus will go down, right? Suddenly, a lot of, they are not able to drive because of the glaring lights. Nighttime driving becomes a problem, right? For both male and female. Okay, and similarly, hearing, right? They are not able to hear because the inner ear gradually degenerates, which results in a loss in the ability to hear sound of high and very low frequency. So hearing is quite slow, right, until 50, but at the age by 58, the rates of hearing loss accelerates. Okay. Then their health. Okay, so middle age is also characterized by the general decline of the physical fitness and some deterioration in health. Common health problems that come during this age is the tendency of becoming fatigue, right? Experiencing fatigue, muscular pain, skin sensitivity, general aches and pain, gastrointestinal related problem, loss of appetite, insomnia, cancer, and heart disease. All this affects the middle adulthood, especially the health, depends on many factors, right? Such as hereditary, past health history, emotional stress, lifestyle, diet, and willingness to adjust to the pattern of living to change physical condition. So, adjustment to physical changes is generally made gradually and reluctantly. But once these changes are accepted by both men and women, they are able to make better adjustments. So, because sometimes some may neglect because of whatever is happening in life, but some men and women may take charge and maybe they start improvising on their health. They may start improvising on their diet. They may start going for exercise. They may start going for gym so that they can start building their muscles. They can do all this so that they are able to adjust and cope with the changes that is happening physically, right? So maybe reduce a carb so that the sugar levels are in control. They start yoga meditation so that the BP is on control, right? So they are taking a lot of, green leafy vegetables. So nutritional aspect, physical aspect, taking care of stress. So all these kind of adjustment, both men are capable of doing. So by doing all this, they are able to. So next important change is the psychological changes. Okay. So during this stage, there's also impact on the psychological well-being of the middle adulthood. So some cognitive abilities improve while others slow down a bit. It is reported that mental abilities such as problem solving, verbal ability, little or no decline in experience during middle. According to Nancy Denny, on nearly any measure of physical and cognitive functioning, age-related changes follow a typical curve and argue that the height of this curve varies depending on the amount of ability or skill exercise individuals engage in. So exercise broadly includes not only physical exercise but also include mental exercises and to the extent some specific tasks are performed. Nonetheless, Denny's model, the maximum level adult will be able to achieve with optimum exercises would decline with age. According to Paul Baltus and Margaret Baltus, physical abilities in middle age give rise to a strategy called the selective optimization with compensation, which is a process of balancing the gains and the losses associated with aging and working memory capacity. The subjective experience of forgetfulness increases with age. Like the older the individual gets, the more forgetful he or she becomes. This forgetfulness can simply become the memory demands of the middle aged adults. Everyday life is more than that of the young adults. Even visual memory declines in middle age because they are not able to recall. Auditory stimuli seems to remain stable throughout the adulthood. Episodic memory is the ability to recollect personal events, whereas semantic memories are the ability to recollect general knowledge, facts, word meaning. Research finds the difference between young and middle-aged adult in relation to a new episodic memory, but not in the semantic memory. Example given here is the middle-aged individual attending a cricket match may forget where he has parked his car, but unlikely to forget the rules of the game. So, using reminders or cues, individuals complete episodic memory limitation. Researchers suggest that the creation of an individual, reach its peak from the 40s and the 50s or even in the 60s. Also, intelligence grounded in experience known as crystallized intelligence tend to improve most in the adulthood. Then we come across social changes. What are the social changes during this period? Many women engage in social activities as it to elevate their loneliness because now children have moved on, right? And they are no longer here. So they don't have great responsibility of working in the kitchen, tending to children. Also, they have plenty of time. So they use this time to socialize. They mix with friends and they start doing a lot of social activities in order to elevate the loneliness. Similarly, men also start enjoying entertaining with friends. They tend to go for walks and sports and politics and business. They get involved. Okay, women tend to talk about their feelings and life problems when they gather with the friends. Okay, and they look for support. So number of lot of friends what they have like Facebook friends all they start on the decline. They chose to have very few friends. Okay, so all these are changes that occur in the social adjustment. Okay, so good social adjustment during this stage is determined by two factors. One, they play social roles that are expected of them, and the second factor is how much personal satisfaction they derive playing this role. The personal and social adjustment is determined by how successfully they master the developmental task mentioned earlier, achieving in civic and social responsibility. Okay. Research has revealed that the husband and wife have grown up and live in the same place, close-knit social network are more common than the husband and wife who move from place to place. Yeah. Because if you keep moving place to it's very difficult to sustain the relationships that you have created. So it is more both men and women, higher and lower class, more satisfaction is derived from the social contact where there is a personal relationship than the acquaintanceship. Then you have occasional changes from middle age adjustment. The center worked around even more difficult personal and social adjustment. Okay. So some of the working environment that complicates middle age adjustments are unfavorable social attitude. Like though the older workers are respected for their experience, but there is also a tendency to regard them as old, right? To learn new skill, to keep pace with the modern demands. So middle-aged workers are also regarded as uncooperative with their co-workers, subject to absenteeism and accident prone due to the failing health. And then organization hiring policies also. Many organizations, they will not want to, hire retired persons. They don't want to spend money on them, right? And this is making job for middle-aged adults hazardous than when they were younger. And then increased use of automation. Automated work requires higher level of intelligence, training, and greater speed than non-automated work. This is the disadvantage for the middle class, middle-aged workers who are experiencing physical decline. And there is compulsory retirement. As the retirement work is usually the early 60s and the late 60s, the chance of getting promotion in their 50s become lower and finding a new job is becoming even difficult, except a lower level with a lower pay. And then the dominance of big business. When small business and industrial organization merge with the bigger ones, middle-aged employees may find themselves out of job because that their jobs are on the lower level rather than before they were, maybe have been handling the managerial positions. Relocation. With merging of small business with bigger organization, many are forced to relocate, move closer to the parental companies. Okay, relocate their job, facing difficulty in new location. Okay, that can be a traumatizing experience. Okay, so all this is part of the occasional changes that occur. And then what are the factors that influences vocational adjustment in this age? Are satisfaction with work. Okay, so this is very important. For better vocational adjustment will be made by those middle-aged men and women who like their job and who like their job than those who do not, who dislike, but they stayed in the job due to family responsibilities, right? So sometimes it happens. Even if you don't like, because you have a commitment to a loan, you have a commitment to a family, to children's education, you have a tendency to stick in the job. But if you are happy and if you're satisfied, there's nothing like it. And then opportunities for promotion, right? As workers approach the age of retirement, their chances of getting promotion becomes lesser and they are likely to be pushed aside by the younger workers. This is likely to harm the occasional adjustment of the individual. Then there is occasional expectation, where they appraise the whether favorable or a profound effect on the occasional. Then increase the use of automation, where the negative impact on the occasional adjustment. Then the attitudes on of a spouse. When a spouse of a worker complains about the job status, and pay constant absent at home, the worker may feel dissatisfied with his work, thus contributing to successful or unsuccessful occasional adjustments. Attitude towards big business. Workers who take pride associated with big business and industrial organization will make better adjustments to their work than those who do not take pride in their association. Attitude towards co-workers. Middle-aged workers who resent the treatment they received from their co-workers and regard the other workers, especially younger ones, as careless and shiftless, while they have a favorable attitude towards the co-workers. Relocation, yeah, which I've already spoken, successful adjustment, achievements, job satisfaction. Okay. Then we move to the family roles. Okay. So what happens during this period? There's also significant changes happening in the family. Mostly the children are leaving the homes, which is becoming difficult for the middle-aged men or women. Yeah. So when a parent child is sustained after the departure of the child, the departure becomes a minor event. It's followed by little or no communication. So throughout middle, parents continue to give more assistance to children, especially if they are unmarried. Once they are married, the whole dynamism change. Okay, so difficulties occur, parents disapproval of the child's partner to adopt. No, so many things happen. So as they once they are settled properly and they start having grandchildren, they start enjoying their, they value their grandchildren more than their own children, and they spoil them, they pamper them, right? All this. So successful adjustment to change in family patterns during marriage often complicated by number of factors. What are they? Physical and psychological change due to menopause in women and climatic in men may intensify the adjustment. Loss of parental role is another factor that complicates adjustment. And then when role changes, physical change occurs simultaneously. And then the failure of self-blame, yeah, as a result of marital dissatisfaction, and children not living up to expectation. And the more children centered at home was earlier more useless as the middle age when the roles and the responsibility of the parents diminish. Dissatisfactions in marriage caused by unforeseen changes in marital and family situations, such as loss of job, children, adjustment. Then the need to take care of the elderly relatives may cause complication in adjustment in middle-aged people who do not want to be tied down as they are when the children were young. And then the another important aspect is how do they adjust to retirement? So many workers look forward, because some people have been working for many years, 30, 40 years, they are also getting tired and they wait for the time when they could be retired, and have all the time for themselves. Okay, so retirement is a lengthy process. Okay, it involves loss of income. They may not be earning as they were earning when they were going regularly. The income level comes down. So planning becomes very important, and sometimes it can also be stressful. So retirement leads to way of spending less, that is largely guided by what one wants to do and what one has to do. Research shows planning of active life has a greater impact on happiness than financial planning, and activities promote many factors essential for psychological well-being. Relocation after retirement needs to be considered carefully. Okay, so they need to adjust to the impending retirement, and a lot of planning they need to make in terms of finances, in terms of sorting out their debts, in terms of looking towards the future, in terms of being financially, empowered. Okay, because they'll draw less salary of everything, because the way they were drawing salary while they are at work will reduce almost to 50% when they retire. So they have to learn how they will manage with that retirement, with that pension. How do they, deal with the inflation? How they will deal with the incoming thing. So all this, okay. So with this, we come to an end of this middle adulthood. Okay. And then you see we have a summary here, which is very easy for you to read. Go through the summaries. You have check your progress, and then model exam questions are there. Excellent characteristics of middlehood, social change during middlehood. Okay, developmental task that is confronted during middlehood, and then you have the fill in the blanks, and then you have you know multiple choice questions, and then you have the match the following. When you are free, do all this. There is also a glossary for you to understand the difficult words. So with this, we end the unit 11. Okay. So now we move on to the next unit. That is the unit 12. So unit 12 is the last unit and today is the last class for us. Okay. So what is the old age? In the old age, we look at the characteristics of old age. We look at physical, psychological, social, and developmental tasks, and then we look at adjustment to retirement, leisure activities, and interests that we have, adjustment in changes of family life, hazards, physical, psychological, social, role of family in elder care, all this. Okay. So the main objective of the unit 2 is to discuss the characteristics of old age, describe the development task of old age, explain how people make adjustment to retirement, describe the role change experienced by middle-aged individual at family level, enumerate, the physical, psychological, and social hazards during the old age, and delineate the role that family members play in the elderly care. Okay. So, among the various stages of human life, late adulthood holds a distinct position. Yeah, due to the very fact that the people are living longer than now any other time in the history due to technological advancement. Okay, so expectancy at old age, demographers are divided the measurement of this phase as younger old, which is 65 to 74 years old, and then old, which is from 75 to 84, and then the oldest for people that are from 85 to and older. Okay. So what are the main characteristics of old age? Physical. Okay. So physical changes that is very obvious as we are noticed even in the middle adulthood. It is a gradual process that as we keep growing older and older, okay, there is a lot of physical changes that is occurring, right, of the individuals, of the skin, on the face, and other parts of the body due to the loss of elasticity and collagen. So changes in internal functioning of the body become apparent in the persons as they get older. A significant sign of change in internal functioning can be seen with the changes in respiratory system, loss of muscle fiber, right? The brain also becomes smaller as it pulls away from the skull and blood flows in reduced within the brain, causing to use less oxygen and glucose. Another noticeable physical change is the decline of vision. The retina of the healthy 60-year-old receives only a third of the amount of light as compared to the 20-year-old as the optic nerve deteriorates, becoming less efficient in transmitting nerve cells. Age-related macular degeneration, which affects the macula, a yellowish part of the eye near the retina, is the most common cause of blindness. Okay, so reaction time is affected, right? People tend to move and react to their surroundings slower as their age increases. Though there is no clear explanation for slowing down, the peripheral slowing hypothesis suggests that it's caused by decreased efficiency of peripheral nervous system. An alternative explanation proposed by researchers says that the processing becomes slower, not just in the peripheral nervous system, but in the entire system, including the brain. Okay. So older adults are more likely to have stroke. They are more likely to have cerebral vascular, accident, which leads to the disability among older people. A severe vascular accident may result in serious cognitive impairment. So all the age related, related to visual and hearing, can be experienced at this time. Okay. So next we move to the psychological changes. What are the psychological changes, right? We see in older people, we see mostly, their cognitions, right? Cognitive changes happens in the widely discussed and researched. The notion that older people become more and more cognitively inept arose from the misinterpreted research evidence. Paul Bartlett stated that though cognitive pragmatics remain strong and stable throughout adulthood, age-related decline in fluid intelligence is seen throughout the middle-late adulthood. He also argues the effectiveness of cultural support and resources for self-regulation. Strategies become less efficient for older adults, the cognitive and physical resources decline. Okay. And then we move to the social. Similarly, what we have already said, a decline in their, social moving, right? The social movement, right? They mostly contribute to the decline of physical and mental health. Okay, so they not are actively involved in social activities until they later on in their life. The time spent with friends later is often valued more than time spent with family. Okay, so friendship is also provide social support, which is crucial for successful aging. Okay, in general, Asian societies hold elderly in high esteem compared to the Western cultures, though there is a decline in the trait over the years. Negative stereotyping is particularly important for women, especially in the Western cultures, where double standard for appearance is prevalent when it comes to aging. As a consequence, it is considerably likely women to hide the signs of aging compared to women. Okay, so age discrimination at work. Some employees believe that the older age workers are not up to the requirements for the job or having issues adapting to ever changing workspaces. Okay, then we move to the developmental task. Psychoanalyst Eric Erickson's ego versus integrity versus despair stages focuses on the personality concerns. With late adulthood, which according to him is the time of elderly people moving into the final phase of life's 8 stages of psychosocial development. According to him, it is this stage is characterized by the evaluation of one's life, coming to term with it. Okay. As per his theory, successful people in their final development, let's say, experience integrity, which is a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment in their life's work. Integrity makes people feel and realize a sense of fulfillment of the possibilities that life has presented to them, and this leaves very little room for regrets. On the contrary, other reflects on the past with a sense of dissatisfaction and may feel that they have failed in accomplishing their wishes or they have missed the important opportunities. Okay. Erickson perception, psychologist Robert Peck suggested three major developmental tasks or challenge that occupy. Okay, so first one is the redefinition of self versus preoccupation with the work role. According to Peck, the first task is redefining oneself in ways not related to their work rules or occupation, which he labels as the redefinition of self versus preoccupation with the work rule. Once people stop working, the changes that occur can trigger a difficult adjustment period for them, and it adversely impact the way they view themselves. So he suggested that it's important for people to adjust themselves and their values. They put more emphasis on activities they don't involve professional labor like being a grandparent, gardening, or less viewing themselves as less professional. The next important thing is the body transcendence versus body preoccupation, which is the second major development task according to Peck. Associated with the late adulthood and body transcendence work. Aging can trigger significant physical change in the person's physical capabilities positively and adversely. So according to Peck's body transcendence versus body preoccupation state, it's imperative for a person to learn to cope, to move beyond, yeah, the physical transcendence due to their age. Without the will to cope and adjust to the change, it leads to preoccupation with the physical deterioration, which eventually morphs to the detriment of the personality of development. Ego transcendence versus ego preoccupation. The final developmental task in late adulthood, according to Peck, is ego transcendence versus ego preoccupation, which he defines as the acceptance or coming to terms with the inevitability of their coming death. At this stage, the individual tends to understand and accept the fact that although inevitable, that they will serve as a source of ego transcendence on their contribution, which can be in the form of children, work, and civic activities, which will last beyond their lifetime. However, individuals are unable to come to terms with their fate and they become more preoccupied with their life's work question and values of their lives and birth to society. Okay, so Daniel Levinson proposed a different approach that does not focus on Erickson's or Perk's approach to challenges for aging adults. Its approach to developmental tasks looks at processes that can stimulate personality changes. So, according to him, people pass through the transition stage to late adulthood, age from 60 to 65, during which they come to accept themselves as being old. It is not uncommon for people to struggle with this notion, knowing fully well the stereotypes the society creates about elderly individuals. Levinson states that people come to realization that they can no longer ride the center stage of life, but at the same time are increasingly playing parts in bits. It may be difficult for certain individuals who are accustomed to having control to adjust to the stage where they lose power, respect, and authority. On the contrary, older people can serve as a useful resource for the younger generation, wherein they establish their status as venerated elders who are the source of advice and highly sought and relied upon by the younger individual. Okay. So next is Bernice Newgarten's approach to development. In late adulthood, focuses on four different personality types rather than the commonalities of aging. The first one is a disintegrated and disorganized personality. So according to her, you can this stage experiences a disorientation, a disintegrated and disorganized personality characterized develops as they grow due to inability to accept aging. The group of individuals often end up being hospitalized or in nursing. The next one is passive dependent personalities. The second group, yeah, are related to illness, fear of future, their inability to cope with changes. This insecurity often leads in the category of seeking family help, okay, help and care providers, though they might not need in the current state. Defendant personalities. The third personality type is the defendant personalities, right? Where the individuals attempt to fight the fear of aging by engaging themselves in various youthful activity and may attempt to act young and often exercise vigorously. Integrated personalities. The fourth group identified as integrated as the most successful of the four. They have comfortably coped with aging and can maintain dignity by accepting the fact that they have become older. These groups of individuals acknowledge the effect of aging and can look back at their past and their future with acceptance. Okay. So we move to the next adjustment to retirement. Okay. The process of retirement often play a long stretch with some retiring all at once while others cycle it out on retirement, cutting back working hours, becoming self-employed or as part-timers, etc. before fully settling into retirement. In industrialized societies, aging is used more positively compared to more industrialized society. Okay. Important examples can be agriculture predominant culture where retirement is not a working concept. And older individuals can accumulate control over resources like animals and land. Older individuals, especially males, are respected and they continue to be involved in activities that are central to functioning of the society. A complication to the idea of retirement that has been looked into marriage, though is considered as positive influence on the well-being and development of the individual. In today's world, we have a large number of women in the workforce than ever when husband and wife try to plan the retirement process at the same time. Okay. A study by Ho and Raimo on people of 50 years and older in dual carriers families found that at least 42% of men and 39% of women expected to retire along with their spouse and only 24% retired within a year of each other. The experience of retirement can be quite different for women and as many enter the workforce after staying at home, raising children, and tend to have more discontinuous work history with fewer financial resources, which may affect the retirement decision. Research likely to suggest that less happy people if their spouse continue to work, making them feel less powerful in the relationship as a result. On the other hand, women may find it irritating to have their husband around all day if they have been homemakers for years and it may intrude and disrupt the daily routine. Patricia Bushman and a colleague studied a sample of women who cited impingement as the most difficult part of their spouse's retirement due to perception that their lives are being disrupted correlated with marital dissatisfaction. Okay, Robert actually proposed that the adult progresses through a series of phases as a transition from workers to retiree. According to him, working adults often experience a honeymoon phase just after retiring where they engage in activities they have never done before. Okay, because they were very busy earning bread. then may enter a disenchantment, finally moving to a orientation phase where they pull themselves together and create realistic and satisfying lifestyle. Given the influence on adjustment to retirement, women may feel pressurized to retire early if their husbands retire or develop health issues. They are most likely to move in and out of the working community and generally do not earn as much as men. They often find themselves without inadequate income, post retirement, and no pension. Women are more likely to outlive their husband, often end up living alone. Okay, so we move on to leisure activities and interests. Okay, so what are the leisure activities and interests? Social and personal. As studies suggest, social engagement and activities that are socially absorbing play an important role in the late adulthood post retirement. They help to maintain their cognitive function in late adult lives, and studies show the risk of cognitive decline that has been reduced from 3, 6, and 12 years by engaging in greater social activities. These can include and is not limited to contact with family and friends or engaging in participating in social and leisure activities. Okay, it can vary across age and cultures. Okay, so community volunteering post retirement is also common among many healthy and active adults. Okay, so they may be traveling and then they may have family reunions, they may have all kinds of reunions, where the college reunions, school reunions. Okay, somewhere they are connecting back and they are, having a engagement socially. Religious, it's also time for, for the later adulthood to think about, to find solitude in God, in thinking about God, in talking about religious beliefs and satisfaction, greater self-esteem. The role of religion is varied across diverse culture. Prayer by itself may have positive impact on older adults of greater faith, as essential the feeling of calm, companionship, and the notion that there is a higher power watching over, caring, planning every aspect of life. In coping with the challenges of life as an older adult, strong attachment to God is believed by many, and there is a considerable evidence that links religious based coping to life and health to spirituality. Older adults involved and committed to the spiritual beliefs have slower are shown to inhibit better physical and mental health compared to those who are not bound by religious belief. Pras were among the first to question other older adults on the meaning and signification, turning it all over to God and letting God have it. This report suggests the three-step process to explain the concept. One is differentiating between things that they can and cannot be changed. Two, focusing one's efforts on the parts of the problems that can be changed. And three, emotionally disconnecting from those aspects of problem that cannot be changed by focusing on the belief that God will provide the best outcome possible for us. As concluded by the findings, spiritual beliefs play a crucial role in helping people relieve many of their issues and focus their attention on things that are under control. Okay, so check your progress. Then we move to adjustment to changes in family life. Okay, this is again a huge role played. Grandfather tend to be less involved with the grandchildren than grandmothers. Gender differences and feeling towards the grandparents and the grandchildren. Most young adults and grandchildren seem to develop their closer bonds. Okay, and in the case of involvement is the grandparents are often too old by the time they reach the state of grandparent, lacking physical or psychological energy to interact. The expression is that not uncommon for great grandparent to have so many great grandchildren and it becomes difficult for them to keep track. There are a few sections of society in every culture that attend the later stages of their adult life. Okay, as single individuals who have never married. Yeah, for those who have remained married or unmarried till the transition of late adulthood may bring fewer changes and the status of living does not change much. Okay, so just keep on reading and the last part of it, we come to hazards. What are the hazards of old age? One is the physical hazard, right? Where the chances are the higher individuals, physical deterioration, body immunity coming down, stroke, heart disease, a lot of falling can happen, injuring can happen, accidents can happen, arthritis, inflammation, hypertension, all these kind of physical hazards, are obvious. In psychological, what are the hazards we experience? Mainly because they go through a lot of memory losses, So dementia is the most common way, the forgetfulness, right? Alzheimer's is again, Parkinson's is another. So like this, all these different kinds of psychological. Then we have social adjustment, right? In the context of family, social life, older people spend more time with the close group. Marital satisfaction have been found to be the higher in the older couple past age of 73 and has been reported to experience increased closeness with the partners of time. However, important to note that the strain occurs when the strongest of a relationship develop fewer newer relationship while maintaining fewer newer relationship in general, whether it is within the family or with friends. Laura Kristen and a colleague's theory of social, economical, emotional selectivity argues that social contact is motivated by various goals like information seeking, self-concept, emotional regulation, and all that this stuff. So we are moving on to role of family in elderly care. Okay, so the study shows that caregiving patterns, partners of people with Alzheimer's disease show much lower satisfaction with the relationship when compared to healthy couples. Spousal caregivers, including gay and lesbians, are reported loss of companionship and intimacy over time. So, providing fulfilling care and commitment relationship can be stressful and the reward certain cases of long-term facilities. The treatment given to elderly is not uniform and in particular cultures and broad global statement cannot be made on how society treat the adults as it varies from culture to culture and society to society. Yeah. So please read up all these kind of things. Yeah, we come to the National Center of Elderly Abuse, where they have identified a few of points, how the elderly are abused. Physical abuse that may result in bodily injury, physical pain or impairment. Sexual abuse, non-consensual sexual contact of any kind. Emotional or psychological, inflicted of anguish, pain or distress. Financial and material, illegal or improper use of older adults' property or adults' funds, property or assets. Abandonment, desertion of an old adult by an individual whose physical custody of otherwise responsible for providing care of the older adult. Neglect, refusal to fulfill, refusal to failure to fulfill the part of person's obligation or due to an older adult. Self-neglect, which is very common among this. The current approach of elder abuse conceptualized in the long-term development from the relationship between a parent and a child, especially by children. It is mostly directed to family members, especially women, elderly parents, and those living in caretakers' homes. Okay, so with this, we complete. Okay, so go through the summary. The summary they are given everything about old age, the characteristics, whatever we have studied so far. Okay, and then we have the summary which is given beautifully, and then the model questions. Okay, describe the characteristics of the old age, developmental tasks suggested by Robert Peck, various hazards that occur during old age, role does family members play in elderly care, right? And different kinds of you know hobbies or whatever the elderly join into. So there's multiple choice questions. So please do the multiple choice whenever you're free. Go through the lesson, which will make it very easy for you. Fill in the blanks, right? Then match the category. Group A and Group B. And then you have a glossary where you have all the difficult, words that is meanings is been given at the end of the glossary. Then there are some further readings. So with this, we also end unit number 12. Okay, so we have almost completed the whole, schedule, the whole the whole syllabus of the lifespan development, which is focused, began with block one, where there is growth and development, and then we moved on to the block two, where prenatal infancy and childhood were discussed, and then we went on to block three, adolescence, where puberty and adolescent and issues and challenges in the adolescence were covered. And then we went to block four, where we have early adulthood, middle adulthood, and old age. So with this, we come to an end of our paper that is on lifespan development. So thank you very much for listening. Please read up the book. The language is very simple. They have done the book very nicely. Please go through the book, read up the summaries, try to find and fix match the following, fill in the blank. This will help you to sharpen. So at least once, if you go through your textbook, you'll be able to answer your, in your exams much better. Okay, so all the very best to you. Yeah, with this, I close the session. Thank you for listening and God bless you.